have some ideas on this thing. Okay, just basically talking about different things. So this is going to be mostly audio commentary and not video. Uh, but okay, so you got basically a colored background, usually with movement. This one happens to be green, but you get the idea. But then they put writing over it, which is terrible because these aren't a separate element, which means you can't move them around. You can only, yeah. And I hate having things I can't move around, like this one here. Definitely could basically be elsewhere. Anyway, that's just a quickie. This is some of the early stuff I had. Uh, which was this one here. Basically, if this were in red, it would be bad as a static. But and this is the one I made up way back when. This is actually, I think, like part of this, like from here over to here, was basically part of an element. I took and basically made it into this long strip, and then I inverted it, put it up here, put stuff in between, put a line around the outside edges. You get the idea. But yeah, that was all me. But apparently, I really went overboard with the white. But yeah, this is from the original, some of the original stuff I did. And this is basically showing you, you have stuff that's like moving, which is good. This one's not bad. This here should have been, whoops, what's flying? What happened? Okay. Um, don't know what happened there. Uh, but this area, what the living hell? Well, anyway, it's not supposed to end. Is it basically on the loop? Is that it? Must be on the loop. So, and of course, the loop basically ended in it, so it ended. That's what it was. Anyway, uh, this basically should have probably kicked out somewhere over here. Um, being across the screen means you lose this area. If this were a separate element, it would be good because then you could just drag it over here, put it in your socials or whatever, or you know, chat screen, chat box, whatever. Um, I like I said, I like having different elements being separate so that they can be used to move around, and adjust to whatever you feel like. Here's just some boxes. These would probably would have like your social media or basically uh, you know, new followers and stuff like that. Uh, just of course they'd be outlined in red if it were me. This is just some stuff that was freebies that were around. Um, this is not bad. I kind of prefer. This is basically for like Spider-Man thing, but whoops, of course we're gonna loop out. I don't know why these weren't loop, but yeah, I like if this the blue elements could have been rad, and yeah, but this ain't too bad except for this. The amount of time basically for the loop is extremely small, which means that you're constantly doing this in and out, and it's just annoying. And of course, basically, I can't move this as a separate element upwards or down or something. So, again, the background it should be separate. This here is actually the Be Right Back screen. Uh, we saw the starting soon screen before. This is the Be Right Back. Um, it's actually a blank element. Like I said, these boxes are not separate elements. So the problem with that is, of course, you can't change the order around, which means if you feel like uh, putting them left, right, or center, or anything, you're stuck. Um, yeah. The same thing with these down here. It, currently, there's two. Well, this is actually all one piece. If I split it up here, and blank. This, so you can see what's basically separate. You can see that these here are just two. If they're separate elements, I could basically make it two. I could take and get, turn them into smaller, either turn them into smaller elements or do 4 or 6. Um, so these two elements I could flip if they were separate. You get the idea. That's why I prefer separate elements. Because sometimes you just want to play with things and see how they look. Okay. Uh, this is one of my original ones that I pulled that the static art back. I kind of like the coloring, but of course it's basically static and boring. My technical difficulty screen, at least one of them. And of course the other one basically, which is when things just crash, is this one. I'm sure you're familiar with this one. Okay. Pause for laughter. So, yeah, that's that one. This is basically one of my ones I'd like to use for like those blank areas down there, those black squares on this one. Um, Something like this basically could be used, or I could. This is what I normally have basically for like at the top for my name. You get the idea. It's nice. The blue I would probably replace with red. Other than that, it's kind of a nice thing. These here I just basically put together because to show you the 3/4 frame and the 16:9 frame. These are red. Not quite sure basically on the fact that they're basically this kind of fuzzy red frame as opposed to a more solid frame. But yeah, I mean, it is red at least. This is, of course, an intermission frame. The background basically is clouds. I like this because it can loop forever basically without it being annoying. This one here, I really have a problem with basically the fact that this one I've actually got it slowed down because that it constantly loops and you know it, it's annoying to constantly watch the thing loop. Uh, but be what it is, it was free. So same thing here with the different elements. Where basically, I like the flames. This blue chaser should probably be red. Having things that moving around this area is good because the fact that, like I said, keeps you engaged during an intermission. Anyway, uh, let's be right back. We got the starting one. So, same idea basically, but it basically this more or less the background is fine. Just this piece here, you can't do it. You can't move it up or down. You basically are in your stuff basically with it being like personally, I would have it like probably basically loop out. I don't know how I do it. Really, it would basically if it would loop out and stay basically the best thing. Like it would never turn flip out again. This is my Fallout 4 I designed for when I was playing Fallout 4. It's my talking screen. I have a place have my like name header here. Um, and yeah, so just throw out Fallout 4 vault door. This is 111. Um, who can basically throw in a vault tech guy and a Nuka-Cola and whatnot, just for fun. Um, so, and I had my, okay, oh, I know what happened. Okay, stop, you stupid. Okay, this is my stream ending. Um, and yeah, so the just I basically just throw this in. This is a separate element. The Fallout 4 is basically the background. And these are all separate elements that I basically hook together so I can actually like move them as a group. But that's what folders are for. But they are separate elements, so if I wanted to swap them around, I could. Here's my social media one. It's just same idea. Um, yeah, these are just basically things I did just for the game. Okay. Uh, so this one basically is just, they're elements here that are nice with the backgrounds on them. These are more orangey rather than red. Uh, the explosions and the smoke are just annoying because they drag your eyes like super away from whatever you're playing. So, but yeah. This is the intermission screen from the same thing. Has the same problems basically that this is all one versus being separate elements, so there's nothing you can do with it. The background's kind of nice, except for it would need to be red, but just one of those. This one happens to be water, like I said. Okay. Here's the this one here is basically the water. If this were red, if they have this starting soon and stuff, it would just basically a red background, and this were red instead of blue. He basically perfectly fine from background. Uh, and then basically this is the live screen. I believe I remember this was the camera and this was the screen. That's the thing. The okay, this is the camera and this is the chat box. I tend not to have chat box basically be in game because they can see their chat box. And I can't. But anyway, have a separate tablet for my chat. But yeah, it's nice. You can see basically the niceness of it. This is a separate element, so it can be moved. Um, so that one ain't too bad. Uh, so yeah, just one of those things. Like I said, ideas. Um, this one here is basically what I'm going to be using for my chat for the moment. I gotta basically drag this background to it. The reality is that the background screen that this is is actually not this one. Um, it's this one. So I took this basically, of course, like I said, with this being like I like the little outside edge here. I think it's great. If this were in red, it'd be perfect for this particular thing. To be right back, of course, you can't move it, and of course, you can't really use it for anything else. Because I just like drag my face cam up. Okay, see with the chroma key, you can still see things like that. So as a temporary workaround for now, I took a black background and just stuck it. Still not ideal. Okay, just things like I said. I'm just shooting some ideas. Um, you have my camera. Okay. Um, this is the let me put this more on. Okay, this is the background. Obviously, it's starting to would need to be a separate element, but it's not bad. If this were in red, it would be okay. But when you the problem you have to look at is basically when you put it as a over trim or something like this, you can see that basically is very, very, very obvious that uh, these aren't bad. They're a little annoying, but they aren't bad. But you can see where it's flickering up here. It's like really distracting. So, like I said, as the background, the whole thing is good. But when you put it for something like as a backing for this, when you create it, it can become a bit annoying. I would say. So, I drag everything out. Okay, enough about that. So, moving on. Like I said, you got a background is fine. Like this is actually a relatively decent uh, starting soon thing. It needs to be a separate element, but like it doesn't like soup. It's longer. I've got it slowed down a bit, so it's even longer. But um, yeah, doing it too often basically becomes annoying. So this one's not too bad. Um, but yeah, that one should be the amount of time basically that I know it increases the size of the gift and whatnot. I don't care. Um, but the time for the loop is uh, yeah, should be I don't know 30 seconds at least. So maybe a max of a minimum of 15, but 30 would be good. So that it's there, but it might change once in a while. It's just not that often. And I'd like to be able to move it up or down rather than it's part of the background. You get can't do anything with it. Okay. We can skip this one for now. I'll come back to it. This is a background for the chat window, chat box. The frame is built into it, but this background is really nice. I can call it the hot cold. Um, but the only problem with this chat thing is that you can only scale it this way. You can't scale it this way without changing, keeping the thing. I don't know if you can. I don't know if basically with a animated GIF if you can scale sideways without changing the height. I'd have to look it up, and I haven't done that yet. But it would be nice if I could in case I wanted to just have my chat be, this wide, but from top to bottom, I could do that. This one here this is an orange instead of red, but yeah, these have kind of like nice that not like overly over the top, does draw attention. Um, but yeah, and this is the be right back screen. Like I said, this if this went all the way around, like the one that was in blue, I hate this bubble thing. But this were more like that in red, and it had this, like a red flame around the edge. Yeah, that basically be good for the camera and whatnot. Background. This is actually a pretty good coloring up red. I mean, it worked out. This thing overall worked out. Yet again, it's not overly distracting. Um, this is the not the bottom here, but the top basically is uh, the moving red, basically decent. Like I said, first of all, I hate that blurs out, screws my eyes. Don't like that. But this should be honestly be a separate element. And yeah, I'm not big on the sands. This is basically just showing like these boxes instead of those boxes being like locked into like that. It would have been better if each of those boxes were separate. But the coloring is nice. Same thing with the coloring up here and stuff. If that was red, it would be basically fine. It's square, but it's at least it's not obnoxious. Um, this replaces more or less uh, the the red line. I mean the flame thing with more of an electric arc type thing, which is fine. That was fine too. This were basically in red instead of blue would be just about perfect. I wouldn't basically have pyramids here. I'd probably have something more like box heads, or paws, or whatever, something. But ideas. This one here is red, but because this is just a weird, it looks like I'm looking through a microscope at a drop of pond water. If it were like red, if it were smoke rather than this weird wormy thing, yeah, it'd be better. And of course, these elements have to go or be separate. Um, this one's actually kind of a nifty, but more or less just elements need to be separated. Uh, but this is fine. This is basically these are red. You've got a little bit of stuff. They're not like super distracting for the most part. Um, I think that's the live. This is the intermission. Intermission, you don't care if it's a little bit distracting because it's trying to keep you basically there for the few minutes that you got to run to grab a drink or go to the bathroom. So, but separate again. You run to shit that should be separate elements. So, like if I go like this. It doesn't even come up. So, oh, no, it's at the be right. Oh, there it is. This is everything with the, except for this is basically all the be right back screen. No elements, no movable elements on it, so you can see how fixed everything is. Drives me nuts. Okay. And here's, it's just a live screen, like I said. It's fine. It's not overly over the top, but they need to be separate elements. That's about it. I believe these are actually separate elements. Oops, not the right thing I'm grabbing. If I grab the camera, I can drag it around. These two elements basically here are part of, I think, the webcam frame. I just moved the webcam frame. I have to move that. Same thing with the chat frame and the header basically. So, but yeah, overall, at least I can move them somewhat. Or if I want to just like get rid of the chat box, you know, I can. I don't have to have it on screen. So that's why I like separate elements.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. To dream, I'm getting strong, step by step. I'm the only one, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Thailand. I've been all around the world, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight.
Is that one?
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. To dream, I'm getting strong, step by step. I'm the only one, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Thailand. I've been all around the world, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight.
having something like this basically come across a certain area, the alert area, and have the person's name basically be behind it for uh, in a way of kind of a uh, Mission Impossible type thing, basically. But as it goes through, basically the person's name appears, and or following or donating or whatever, and then basically fades out. That would be nice. I don't know how possible that is, but that was kind of what I'm looking to figure out how to do basically sometime for my alert as a general alert. Uh, yeah, this is basically this. Okay, start with this is supposed to be the yellow is supposed to be gold and the silver white is supposed to be silver. And heraldry, this is basically yellow represents gold, white represents silver. So if I could get this, as gold and silver, spinning kind of like this as a background, with basically, a separate element for the fox head or the paw print, whatever, would be perfect. Okay. And the last thing is talking about my ideas for like the fox head. Now, way back long before Twitch, I had basically as well, this as my original identifier head. So, needless to say that, yeah, it's not what I use anymore, but it was something. Um, and then there are things out there that are similar. This style, something similar, more less less logoed. It's slightly more logoed than the previous one, but less than the first couple. Um, kind of slightly cartoony, not bad. Throw these back into the folder. Now I'll move on to the next. Um, from there, basically, you go into things like we'll call more realistic styles. But as you can see, this is from Disney's Robin Hood, which most of your anthropomorphic boxes come from. Or Fox and the Hound, I think it was, right? Something like that. You have Sky Fox, gives you an idea of the head. I would like to have the, like, I'll show you in a minute. Okay, here's another fox head, but uh, I would, of course, not have something like this. I prefer like a slightly raised hairy area here. This area would not have the droop to the sides, basically, for the eyebrow area, or this section in the middle. But yeah, anyway, just idea design. Mm-mm. Something that so visible. No, people off. Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, okay. So I just basically pulled these for reference. You see the blue eyes they had basically in the my original one. Pull the whole folder. Okay, blue eyes. Uh, it seems to be holding that. So I guess basically you're having issues basically with not even there. But the blue eyes there. You got basically this is like a real fox's head. Gives you this little hair in between. I said this would probably be a great out. Um, it'd be like light gray hair, getting like just a little bit of gray in the white here versus this would be more gray around the muzzle area. And of course, being anthropomorphic, you have like great eyebrows too, blue eyes. So it gives you an idea. So this next group is just basically, you know, different styles of basically fox. Just ideas. This is a bit more cartoony than I like to go for, but I say this one really doesn't have the hair so much. This one's really cartoony, but and it would need the hair area here. But yes, like I said, their idea. Same thing. This is way too cartoony, um, but it's in the at least get the hair here. You could basically make this one kind of you know more give it the grain and so forth. Um, this one's a bit too feminine. You have to have like bushier eyebrows. This one's dead, tired, but has the hair area here. Missing whiskers. This is kind of basically overall. It has like slightly cartoony shape to it, but it's like not bad. It could be a bit edging. That yeah. So this one ain't too bad. Like I said, just see like little few gray lines here, getting like really gray in here. Like I said, I'm not young chicken anymore. And this is a bit overly cartoony, but it's got the hair basically. Got this, which is reminiscent of basically my beard. So don't worry, I don't got too many more of these things. Love OBS. It was actually holding that picture, even though it wasn't. Should have been white. This is actually not a fox, but it could be easy enough to change. Just to this would be like with a donor alert, I suppose. Anyway, this I think was like a corgi, but could easily be a fox. I mean, they're very similar in looks. There's a foxy or corgi. It's got you got the little hairy here. This were whiter, a little bit, gray and so forth. This one, it's definitely a fox. Yeah, I mean, I guess they call it a fox. This is just another cartoony style, but basically got the edges. I think the harder the pointier edges is more my style than the rounder one. Now this isn't here as probably about as rounded as you get. You got enough sharp edges that okay. And it's pretty much how I look basically on dealing with tactics. This is actually a German Shepherd, someone's representation of German Shepherd. But if his muzzle were whiter, the little, and he basically would pretty much, and they have the collar, he pretty much would pass for a fox. Ear shape is a little off, basically for a fox. This one is more fox-like for ear shape. Anyway, like I said, this one here is just clearly like what I don't want to see. See how too rounded it is. Yeah. I mean, overall, the emote looks basically are okay, but the actual drawing of the character is kind of a bit too rounded. Like I said, I wanted you to have an idea of what I really wasn't looking for as well as what I was. This box is cool, other than his hair in the middle is a bit too mohawkish. The bunny's basically hair is kind of more of where I would go with it, or some kind of slick back hair or something. But another, this one here is basically cartoony, but it's basically got enough sharp edges that, yeah, these aren't bad at all. This style. Same thing. Like the upper part of this is basically is cool, good. I don't like the lack of definition in the lower part of the face. So okay, I got one more to go. These ones are emotes. So, um, this is very cartoony. Just got a little bit of edge here. If it were slightly better defined, it would basically wouldn't be too bad. Uh, this one here and this one here are good. This one's okay. A little on cartoony side, but it's okay. I mean, I don't know why I keep doing holding that particular image. Like I shouldn't be there anymore, but these are fine because, like I said, you get the sharper edges. Gives it more better definition. Bit cartoony, but emotes are. This one here is probably, if it had the hair in the middle, it wouldn't be too bad. Um, Also, the ones that have like brown paws that basically I put up, it would be like the brown would probably be more like brick, um, rather than actual brown. Or what's the term for that basically? And I can't think of the name of it for hair coloring, where it's basically a very red brown. These are way too round on top. Like the beard part's fine, but the head is basically way too rounded. Okay, hair extra fur and ears, basically. But like these are fine. These are perfectly fine. Um, has all the right elements. So other than being, like I said, this would be gray hairs in here, and some graying around the muzzle. The shape of the nose is basically a little off because it's supposed to be more fox-like, which has the nose. But emotes are what they are. There's some foxes here. These are perfectly fine. They have all the requisite elements. So, as you can see, I have actually started, was thinking about this previously. I had all these things. I just had to find them on my hard drive, which is multiple gigs. So it took me a little bit. And to organize this so it wouldn't crash, was just what was happening in the first couple times I went through it. Again, and these basically ones are, he's got the edges to everything so that it doesn't look like super rounded. So those are, and here we go through this again. Here's the one I was talking about earlier. Other than basically not having the hair in the center, these are actually, and like I said, this would be the coloring more than anything else. So, and yeah, except for some gray for obviously the aging. But yeah, overall, that's it. Fine. Okay, so that's my ideas. I'm sure you'll have your own ideas too. Uh, you can like email me. Our most quickest way for me is Twitter. I'm regularly keeping an eye on Twitter. Like I said, I'll be checking Discord. Um, yeah. So I guess that's it for now. I gotta do a game stream, and my throat is already starting to get a bit dry. But have a nice night. Have a nice one. Happy hunting.